Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be ranking all the chompers in Garden Warfare 2. Now in my last video, for the engineer video, I said which plant would you guys like me to rank? Well guess what, today's video I'm going to do that again. What zombie would you guys like me to rank next? Imp, pirate, superhero, and that's it. So out of those three, let me know down below which one you guys would want me to rank. So Chomper class is very interesting. Starting off with their abilities, Goop is a really useful and good ability. It has a really fast cooldown, it has good damage over time, and it's overall just a really strong and powerful ability. Super Sticky Goop is also pretty good, especially on PC, because if you don't know, on console and PC, the way the Goop moves your camera around, the sensitivity is actually different. On console, Goop is a lot more powerful. On PC, you could look around a lot quicker when you get gooped. So that's a little known fact about the goop ability, but it is a big factor of the ability. So on PC, the super sticky goop is not a bad option either. Now the burrow is a great ability as well. You could use it to get out of scenarios, you could use it to eat people, you could use it to move around a little bit quicker. The sprint burrow is also useful on the chompers that you're not going to be eating people with, like the spray chompers, because you could get around quicker and use it as a pseudo warp. Speaking of warps, the Unicorn and Twilight Chomper have warp abilities. Both of those are really useful for the characters, and they could allow the chompers to reach places they normally can't. All three spikeweeds are pretty good abilities. After you eat someone, you get the spikeweed back if they get trapped in the spikeweed, and if you swallow them, it's overall a good ability, and it could keep someone in place if you're dealing with two people at once. So yeah, chompers have pretty good abilities. They're kind of just held back by their lack of movement options and range. Alright, let's rank the first chomper. I think the coolest one to start out with would be the Hot Rod Chomper, who I'm going to be putting in, for now, I'm going to say the B tier. And I just want to let you guys know, I used to be a chomper main. I would only play these characters, and some of these chompers I have 100+ hours on, so I know what I'm talking about, how they compare against every character in the game, and I've actually gotten 100 kills in a single game of turf with no sunflowers with every single one of these chompers, so I have extensive playtime, and I experimented with many different upgrades, abilities, so yeah. Now the Hot Rod Chomper, starting off with his bites, they aren't very powerful, in fact they're very weak. The Hot Rod Chomper also has only 125 health, which is the lowest out of all the chompers, and that is very detrimental because being able to tank more shots as a chomper is really important. Now the reason this character isn't in the C tier and he's in the B tier is because his speed is absolutely excellent, he has great movement, he could get in, eat someone, get out, he's great at that. But other than that, he's kind of outclassed by another character we'll talk about in a little bit. So he's a pretty mediocre chomper, he could get the job done, but for a chomper there's definitely better options. His movement speed is absolutely fantastic though. The next character I want to be talking about is the Armor Chomper. I'm going to put Armor Chomper in the B tier for the chompers. Now I want to mention that when I mean B tier, I don't mean these characters are B tier on the full character tier list. This is just for the chomper class. So I hope I make that very clear. The Armor Chomper is a pretty fantastic character because he has a ton of health at the cost of being a little bit slower. But he has 215 health and he does 50 damage per chomp, so he has a really fast time to kill. And believe it or not, this character actually used to be even better than he is now, as he actually used to do 55 damage per chomp, but they did nerf him. So back in the day I remember him being really powerful, but he is nerfed, but he's still not a bad pick, as he could tank a lot of shots, he could kill you, and he's a very difficult character to kill if he sneaks up on you. That's if he sneaks up on you. He can be very hard to get in with because of his slow speed, but if you get in with him, he is kind of a monster, and he could really kill you. Alright, the next character I want to talk about is the Yeti Chomper, who is also going to be going into the B tier. I'll order these after, but for now I'm just going to put them in the tiers that I think they belong in. Yeti Chomper is a pretty good character. He obviously has range like none of the other chompers has, but I do think his primary is very lacking in the damage department. If he has pretty good freeze times if you hit direct shots, but his direct shots do a very low amount of damage, and this character's damage output is just bad. There's also a glitch with goop where it'll disable the freeze effect if you hit a goop, so that's really unfortunate, but it is a problem with this character. On another upside, this character does have 175 health, which is really nice, and you could still swallow zombies, and he's just a good pick. Definitely not bad at all, definitely not the best, but he's just a decent chomper, and I think they did a cool job making him more of a unique chomper. I think that's really cool that they did that. Alright, the next character I'm going to be ranking is the Power Chomper. I'm going to be putting him in the A tier. Power Chomper is a pretty good character. He has 175 health, so that's a lot of health. You should be running health upgrade on him as well, so 185 health. He has a pretty good primary, but it does have a slower rate of fire compared to the Fire Chomper and the Toxic Chomper. So that doesn't mean this character is bad, as his primary actually is pretty powerful. The chain damage on it isn't very good, but if you're just focusing on one person at a time, it's pretty good. With my friends helping me, I got 200 kills in one match with this character. So the first Chomper 200 kill game. If you guys want to check that out, it's available on my channel. And I give some more tips about Power Chomper in that video. But yeah, this character is pretty good. I think the high health and the not above average, just the average primary puts him above the B tier Chompers. Alright, the next character I'm going to be ranking is the Chomp Thing. Chomp Thing is, you know what, I'm going to make a D tier. Alright, I'm going to move these down here. Because I do think there is a pretty big in between all these characters. So for the Chomp Thing, he has 135 health. He has the best health regeneration in the entire game. So he regens really quickly. You should be running the regeneration upgrade with him because it stacks and multiplies with his base regeneration value, which is really, really good. His primary is also good. He's a spray chomper, so he has a little bit of extra range compared to the other chompers. And then, of course, you could go into burrow and get all your health back. So he is a really good gimmick. In certain lobbies, he could dominate. I do think the Power Chomper is slightly better because of his higher health, but the Chomp Thing is definitely not a bad chomper, especially if you play him in the right hands and play him approach properly and play him nicely. The regeneration is a really, really useful gimmick, believe it or not. Alright, the next Chomper I want to be ranking is the Count Chompula, who's going to go into the D tier, unfortunately. Now, I love this character's design and I really enjoy playing as him, but I can't deny he's on the lower end of the Chompers. He has 150 health, so he has 25 less than all the other Chompers, but he does have a pretty cool gimmick where if you swallow someone, you get a bunch of health back, and it actually is a pretty decent gimmick when it works, but if you're going in an area with a lot of people, you're just going to get overwhelmed, and having that extra lower health value is just not really that good. Also, having to rely on digestion and not having a good damaging primary is also very rough, and you might as well just play a different Chomper if you want to do damage because they have more health and you don't have to run digestion for a gimmick. Character is cool though and fun. Unfortunately, there has to be ones that are at the bottom. Doesn't mean he's a bad character, because guess what? All the characters in Garden Warfare 2 are completely playable and are good characters, but unfortunately there always has to be one at the bottom, and that one we haven't actually gone to yet, so stay tuned. Alright, the next character I want to talk about is the Disco Chomper, who I'm going to be putting in the B tier. Alright, so the B tier and the C tier are pretty close, but the Disco Chomper does have a couple problems. For one, he has a slower rate of fire than the Reg Chomper, but I do think he's pretty similar to Hot Rod, where he has a gimmick that kind of puts him above the rest. And it's not really like the Armor Chomper and the Yeti Chomper have decent gimmicks, but they're better than the D tier gimmicks, but I don't think they're as useful as the B tier. Now, if you do get the legendary mode with Disco Chomper, he's like up here. He's like S tier. He's really good. He has speed boost, he has damage reduction, he does a lot of damage for Chomp. Very, very powerful legendary meter. Now, getting that meter can be difficult, but if you play your cards correctly, you can get it pretty frequently. And he is a very strong character, but he does high damage per Chomp, and he has 175 health as well, which is really nice. So he's just a decent Chomper. I think he's right in the middle. and his gimmick is pretty cool. I think they did a good job designing him. Alright, the next character is the Toxic Chomper, who I am going to be putting in the S tier along with the Fire Chomper. So if you don't know, these characters are clones. They are exactly the same. One has a Toxic thing, one has the Fire thing. Now, if this character was a ranged character, then Fire Chomper would obviously be a lot better than Toxic Chomper, but they're close range. They do the same amount of damage, they have the same DPS. The Fire gimmick I think is obviously better than the Toxic gimmick, but this is one of the characters that does benefit from the Toxic aura because you're going to be playing him up close. They both have 175 health, and their primaries are the best out of the entire Chomper class. They do a ton of damage, they have big radius, they can get multi-kills, and you don't even have to click your mouse that fast, or if you're on controller, you don't even have to click the trigger that fast. So they're pretty good characters. They're very solid, they have a lot of health, like I said, and they have really good primaries, and I think they're definitely on the top end of the Chompers. And they're better than the Chomp Thing and Power Chomper, because Power Chomper's primary is not as good as these two, as well as they have a lot more health than the Chomp Thing. Chomp Thing's gimmick of regeneration is still very powerful and useful. Alright, the next character I want to rank is the Unicorn Chomper, who is also going to be going into S tier. This character completely outclasses a Chomper we will talk about next. He has 175 health, so he has more health than the Twilight Chomper. He has 2 warps, which are completely invincible. His primary is okay, but I just think the warp really puts him on top. Now, this is kind of a hot take. I think the Spray Chompers, the Fire and Toxic Chomper, are slightly better than Unicorn. The reason for that is I think their primary is much better. Unicorn's primary isn't bad, but it doesn't do nearly as much damage as the Sprays. And the Sprays have the same amount of health, but the warp is still really good. So the character definitely belongs to the top end of the Chompers, but the Fire Chomper and the Toxic Chomper in the right hands, and if you have perfect click speed, really powerful and underrated. They do a lot of damage. So very, very cool. But Unicorn Chomper is still a great character, but these 2 Sprays with the high health and high DPS are just like monsters. Alright, this is arguably the worst plant in the game. I was talking to a couple of people about this character the other day on Discord, so I'll talk a bit more into detail right now. The regular Chomper. I think the regular Chomper is the worst Chomper. Now, I mentioned just before how the Unicorn Chomper outclasses a character, and that's the regular Chomper. Unicorn Chomper is a skin of the Reg Chomper. Same thing, but just has the warp. The warp really helps the Chomper class though, especially since you have 2 of them and they're invincible. What does Reg Chomper have? Well, he has 175 health, mediocre primary, he could still swallow an insta-kill, but like I said, there has to be one at the bottom, and this character gets outclassed by like all of the Chompers, and I'll explain why. Yeti Chomper, he has 175 health and he has a range, and ice, and he could still swallow an instant kill, and he has the same abilities. Reg Chomper doesn't have the range or ice. Power Chomper has 175 health, just like the Reg Chomper, but he has a much better primary with more range and more usability. He's more flexible. Toxic and Fire Chomper completely outclass the regular Chomper. They can still swallow people. They have way better primaries, way better range, same amount of health, completely outclass. Armor Chomper has more health and a better primary. Chompula has a gimmick that I guess is more useful than Reg Chomper, but these 2 are kind of similar. And like Disco has the meter. You know, Hot Rod has the high speed. It's just, there has to be one at the bottom, and this one has no gimmicks at all that really even give a reason to play him. Like, I like playing him, but he's just completely outclassed by every other Chomper, pretty much. Which is kind of sad, because they could have done something cool with this character, but you know, he still has a decent primary. He can still instant kill, he still has goop, but for the Chompers I gotta put him at the D tier because he's just very outclassed by the other ones. Alright, to no one's surprise, the best Chomper is the Twilight Chomper. The Twilight Chomper has pretty much everything about the entire Chomper class that's good into one character. Twilight Chomper has the same speed as Hot Rod. He has the high damaging primary like Armor Chomper. He does have less health than the other Chomper, so he has 150, but with health upgrade he has 160 health, which he should be running. You could survive like imp hunts and stuff. And then he also has a warp like the Unicorn Chomper. Twilight Chomper's warp is definitely different than the Unicorn Chomper's warp. It goes a lot further, and you only have one of them, but it's a really useful ability to get in, get out scenarios, get up to high ground. It's really, really good. So Unicorn or Twilight Chomper is definitely the best Chomper by far. Just because his speed and his warp and his primary being good, he just meshes together to be a fantastic character. I'm not going to be ranking the Chester Chomper because he's not even in Garden Warfare 2. Sorry, Chester Chomper. Maybe we'll do a Garden Warfare 1 video one day. I don't know, I don't really play that game that much. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys liked it, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share the video around to people so we could help grow the channel. We're so close to 20k. Join the Discord link down below, as we've been having a lot of discussions about PVZ lately. It's a very nice small community. If that sounds like something you're interested in, don't hesitate to join with the link in the description. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, and take care. Bye.